We are live. Good morning, everybody. Boker Tov. We're learning Chassidus. Friends, I want you to know something. I remember I told you this before. Moses took the Torah from heaven down to earth. It was the Arizal 500 years ago who brought the Torah, the secret Torah, the Kabbalah, from the secret to the masses. The Baal Shem Tov 300 years ago brought it for the masses to make it practical. Then came the Alter Rebbe 250 years ago, who made it from practical to rational. And then came the Rebbe Rashab, the 5th generation Chabad Rebbe, what we're learning today. And he took it from the rational to the granular. We are taking this into small bite-sized pieces. When the Alter Rebbe taught Tanya, everything was nuclear. In 3 words of a phrase, he could change your world. Like we learned yesterday. Remember how we said yesterday? Uve'emunah zu na'aseh b'emes toif. Uve'emunah zu na'aseh b'emes toif. 5 words changed my life. With this, faith, the evil becomes good, becomes revealed good. It's like, whoa, how do you process those 5 words, So the Rebbe Rashab, what he does is that he breaks it down into metaphor upon metaphor, analogy upon analogy, which is what we're going right now. And we're about to turn the corner here. We're getting ready to turn the corner on the discourse, where the first half of the discourse is academic, the second half of the discourse is practical. Relevant. The first half is academic. Second half is practical. Right now, we walked into the table here today, and there was a couple hundred sunglasses on the table for our upcoming golf event. And I said, it's a divine providence. The sunglasses is the meditation, the manifestation of what we're talking about. What's a sunglass? You look at a sunglass, right? What do you see? You see dark glasses. So you see glass that's dark. You say, oh, it's hiding the light. Right? It's hiding the light. But what is the sunglass doing? I don't know if it makes things clearer as much as it allows you to tolerate a stronger light. If I go out with regular glasses, brilliant. I can't believe how Bashgacha Pratis HaBasherta says. If you go out with the regular glasses, right, you get blinded. It's too powerful. You can't see, so you go back inside. But if you're wearing sunglasses on the golf course, now you can enjoy the game because you can enjoy the greater light. Why? Because there's a darkness. In other words, so what's the purpose of the darkening of the glass? Is it to hide the light? A superficial perception says, of course, it's to hide the light. It's dark. It's to hide the light. But a person with half a brain cell in his head understands. He looks at the sunglasses. It says, shaita, fool. The purpose of the darkening of the glass is in order that you can enjoy the light.
That's funny you said that, Rabbi, because last week I was wearing sunglasses because the sun prescription got dark, and people are like, why are you still wearing your sunglasses? I go, well, I can't see without them, so if you want me to take them off, I won't.
Oh, because they were prescription sunglasses, right? Now, if you're a celebrity, then you're allowed to wear sunglasses indoors, that.
Yeah,
right?
They were saying...
Only if you're a celebrity, you're allowed to wear.
Yeah, they said,
why do these guys wear sunglasses indoors? Nobody knows.
That's what they told me. They said, are you a celebrity because you're wearing sunglasses?
So I think the reason why celebrities wear sunglasses indoors is because they are genuinely trying to hide themselves. Right. That's what they're doing.
Well, it's like a little kid. Kid goes like this. He thinks
exactly. Right? No, but really, they wear a low hat and they wear the sunglasses, right? So that way they think like nobody's gonna notice them. Like, hello, you're wearing sunglasses indoors. It's like putting a big red flag on your head. Like, notice me, right? But then, when you wear sunglasses indoors, then you truly are hiding. You truly are hiding. The darkening of the glass darkens, right? And that's really what a celebrity is. Think about it. What is an American celebrity? It's the manifestation of Klippa. It's one of my favorite examples of Klippa. Because just because you see DiCaprio or Aniston, whatever her name is, on the big screen, doesn't mean that they're amazing people or exciting or interesting people. They just are the ones that you happen to see on the big screen, but behind them is the brilliant editors, the writers, the lighting people. I mean, it takes a Spielberg to be able to tell you a story in a way that you actually draw your emotion out. That's a talent. But to be the one that's reading the lines, if that's all that you're getting excited about, then that's a klipa. That means you're making a priority out of the superficial, which is why the darkening is truly dark. But when you're conscious, when you are conscious, that's when you understand. Don't look at the shell. Look at what's inside. Don't judge a book by its cover. Look at what's inside the book. Now, when you see a sunglass, you say, the sunglass is there in order to let me see a greater light, not a lesser light. And this is where we're going in the discourse. We're going to go a little more theoretical today. Good morning, Dan Geiker from New York, and Elaine from Gardens, and Terry from Atlanta. Where we're going today, we're going to be a little more theoretical inside the text to cover some more ground today. And we're going to do like this. We're explaining two more metaphors, analogies to explain why it is that Havaya and Elohim is one and the same. Havaya is the light. Elohim is the shell. Remember, Havaya is what creates everything. Elohim is what disguises God. So if you're a superficial person, all you see is the disguise. All you see is Elohim, and you say Elohim is in contrast to Havaya. The disguise is in contrast to the light, and I got to pick one or the other, right? You look at the laws of science, and you look at the laws of God, and you say they're mutually exclusive, right? But a conscious person says that God chooses to express himself through the laws of science and the laws of nature, through his disguise, through Elohim. And the darkening of the light is in no way a conflict of the revelation of the light. In fact, the reason why you darken the light is in order to be able to make it more capable to reveal a greater light. Right? And the famous analogy, the core analogy, is a teacher talking to the students. When I'm saying to you something simple, I can tell it to you straight up, light. When I'm telling you something deep, I need to mask it in analogies. Right? So when something's masked, when you see a mask, you don't say, oh, the teacher's hiding from us. No, the teacher's hiding the wisdom from us. No, you're not saying that. You're saying he's teaching us something deeper. So in this darkness, it means there's a greater light at play, right? Now, and that's what we're holding in the discourse when we're trying to explain that it really is not hiding the light at all. And just to put it in the context of the flow of the discourse, in the first step of the answer, we said that the darkness is rooted in the same place as the light. Both of them are rooted in Or Ein Sof, in the infinite light. Then we said in the next step, we said that not only is the darkness rooted in the same place as the light, but the purpose of the darkness is in order to reveal. Right? But now what we're saying is that not only is the root of the darkness to reveal, and the purpose of the darkness is to reveal, but even the mechanism, even the process itself of darkness is in order to reveal. And the analogy we used so far of the student, which was that vital metaphor, was that when the teacher's giving you a metaphor, you can't say that he's hiding the light in order to reveal it later. The actual metaphor is the process of revelation. The process of metaphor is revealing. This itself is a part of the revelation of the light. So it would be like we said yesterday, Rabbi Kiva. So Rabbi Kiva would see the darkness as a stepping stone to a greater light. But Nachum Ish Gamzu from yesterday's learning said the darkness itself is the light. And that's what the Rabbi Rashab is explaining to us right now. He's saying that even when I'm hiding the light, that itself is the revelation of the light. So in other words, there is no such thing as darkness. You have to redefine your perception of reality. We're no longer afraid of the dark. We're no longer afraid of the dark. Well, even if you want to put it that way, fine, call it evil. Darkness is a metaphor for evil. And hence we learned yesterday, Ein ra yered milamayla, no evil descends from above. There's no such thing as evil. There's only revealed good and there's hidden good. We've learned this in Tanya chapter 26. There's no such thing as evil. There's only revealed good and hidden good. Now, if you think something's evil, you need to get your eyesight checked. You need to learn Veyodayta Moskova. You need to know God. And that's where we're going with this. So we explained the root of evil being in the same place as good. We're explaining the purpose of evil being in order to make it good. And now we're saying that even the process of evil is in order to be is itself good. Now, when we apply this concept, what we're saying is that if you experience a health scare, if you experience a death, it's not that easy for you to tell me, well, yeah, Rabbi, of course, the death, the illness is a good thing. It's easy to talk about it in theory. That's why we have to go through such granular detail in explaining the metaphor and explaining the concept before we're going to go hit the pavement as we talk about the practical application of this. But I do want to plant the seed and let you know where we're going with this. Yes, Mark.
It's interesting you said that because when I saw my
Hi, Corey.
mother suffer and die from cancer, I turned away from my religion for decades because I said, where was God? God, left such a great woman and just, took her away. And I turned my back on my religion after that. So it's interesting you said that about death.
So now you turned your back on religion. It's amazing that you can talk about it. It's amazing that you can talk about it because you are experiencing this process of knowing God. Because there you are holding it at a superficial level, which is not your fault that you are shallow, because all human beings are created shallow. We learned that in Tanya chapter 1. Our souls are rooted in superficiality. They're rooted in klipa. To be able to climb out of that default setting and to reinvent yourself, to be able to see what lies inside and not what lies on the outside, that takes higher consciousness. And I believe that's what you've done through this journey of Chabad, of being able to see deeper and not to get caught up with the externality, but to see what lies within. And now you personally are going through a tremendous metamorphosis as you literally are reinventing every fiber of your being. It's an unbelievable experience to be able to observe. Thank you for sharing that, Mark. Oh, good. Okay, now here's what we're doing. So the first thing, one second, let's get to my notes here. Here it is. Okay, so good. So we explained the first of 3 metaphors to just go through this process. Now the next 2 metaphors are gonna just expand on the same concept. Okay, that's all they're gonna do. They're gonna be expanding on the same concept. We've really gone through this in a tremendous detail. But let's see if we can do it inside the text, in a way that will be that we can see this in the words of the Rebbe Rashab. Okay, so we've done a lot of talking about this. Now let's go into the words of the Rebbe Rashab. Okay, so I'm going to start. If you have the book, I'm on page 15. If you don't have the book, it's somewhere available online. I believe Winston would post it. I don't know how it works. If you have the text online, the paragraph begins with the words, "This process is implied." This process is implied. The way these guys printed the book doesn't have any paragraph breaks, so I don't know how to describe to you where it is. So in the printed book, it's page 15. In the online version, the paragraph begins, "This process is implied." Okay, so let's go. Now we're concluding the first metaphor, which was the explanation of how the teacher deals with the student. Okay, when he wants to teach him something deep, he gives him an analogy, right? He hides the wisdom in order to teach him something deeper. So you couldn't possibly say that the hiding of the wisdom and the analogy is turning away from the student. On the contrary, it's an effort towards revealing to him, right? This process is implied. If you don't have the text, just follow and listen along with me, okay? It's the Rebbe Rashab talking, okay? This process is implied in our sages' teaching. Quote, "A person should always teach his students in a concise form," unquote, i.e., a teacher should not reveal to a student the depth and breadth of his own perception of the idea, which is not on the level of the student. Instead, he should find a concise form which does not reveal the entire inner appreciation of the idea, i.e., the depth and breadth of his own conception, but merely on that which is on the level of the student. What's going to happen if he teaches him the way he understands it in his own mind? He's going to blow the student away. The student will be like, "I don't know what you're talking about," right? And is this perception of the idea which he can reveal to the student on his own level. Nevertheless, when the teacher does minimize the idea, when he makes it compact, what is he doing? The intent in teaching a student in such a concise form is not that the inner dimension and the essence of the teacher's conception be withheld. That's not the purpose. Were that to be the case, a concept he would be communicating would not be a concise form of the original idea, but rather a different idea entirely. The fact that he's putting it into a bite-sized packaging means that he's giving him the essence just in a small little piece, which is digestible. The intent is that he should teach the student the essence of the conception of the idea in his own mind, but that he should do so in a concise form, i.e., the concept that you communicate should contain in a hidden manner all the depth and wisdom of his conception of his original idea. Nevertheless, this depth should be entirely hidden in the subject matter, in the precise choice of the wording and the like. In these matters, he conveys in a hidden way his inner wisdom concerning the matter. And that concludes that first metaphor, that the teacher reveals the light by hiding the light. So the hiding of the light is really revealing the light. Get conscious. Now let's replace the word light and dark with good and evil. The evil that God sends us is really a greater good that God is trying to give us. It's so hard to apply this. It's so hard. And I just want to validate your concern if you're struggling. Good morning, Melissa. I just want to validate your struggle. But listen to where we're going with this. We're saying that the Holocaust was a greater good, friends. I want you to understand the question. I'm not going to answer it today, because that's what's going to be described over the rest of the discourse. But I want to plant a seed as to where we're going and how incredibly life-changing is this discourse. Now, I want you to leave this session today with a big question mark. Like, what do you mean the Holocaust is a good thing? Rabbi, you're out of your mind. I'm with you, by the way. I'm with you. Exactly. You mean the fire would come out of his nostrils. Right, exactly. But I want to just plant the question in your mind so that so we can percolate it. We can marinate the problem, ruminate, because I don't like giving you a question and an answer and goodbye, have a nice day. I want to give you a question. I want you to get angry over the question. So that way, when you're sufficiently infuriated, now we can start talking about the answer. All right, we'll take some time. A question from Elaine. The infamous tree in the Garden of Eden is called the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The negative commandments are to remove evil. Are you saying that in truth, all that is usher is actually good? All that prohibited is actually good? And the answer is yes. Yes, Elaine. In fact, the word asur doesn't mean prohibited. It means chained. The word asur, which we say prohibited, really means chained up, because it's a light that's so powerful that we cannot elevate that light. That's why don't deal with that, because that's not your work. That's not your destiny. You cannot elevate that particular spark. You can only elevate that which is mutar. Mutar, which we translate as permissible, really means released or free, unchained. Right? So yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Beautiful. Let's move on. Okay, but when you understand them, when you learn them in their proper context. But now you're rewriting the book, right? That's why we have to rewrite the book, Marty. You're understanding the problem now. Good, I love it. So now let's do a second of three metaphors, because this concept, why is that Rabbi Shabbat have to give us three metaphors? Because, dude, this is so flippin' mind-blowing that one metaphor is not enough. Do you know what I'm saying? That's my understanding of this. It's to the point of infuriating that you need a second metaphor. Let's give you a second metaphor. So the second metaphor we're going to do now is from the way the Talmud works. The way the Talmud works is Moses on Mount Sinai receives the Torah. He gets the 10 Commandments in the 2 tablets of sapphire. He gets the written Torah, which is the 5 books of Moses. He gets the oral Torah, which is the Mishnah. And he gets the Kabbalah, the secret Torah. We spoke about that earlier. But what is the Mishnah? What is the oral Torah? The Mishnah was extremely concise paragraphs which describe and elaborate on the entire corpus of the entire Torah. But it's very, very short. The Mishnah is tiny. The Talmud has expanded on it unbelievably, right? But it was incredibly nuclear. It's dense, very, very dense wisdom in every nuance of the wording of the Mishnah. So let's take a look at that. So when you study Talmud, there's always a Mishnah at the beginning, which is like 5 or 6 lines. And then there's a Talmud, which is like 400 lines. Then there's another Mishnah of 5 or 6 lines. And then there's a Talmud of 400 lines. Then there's another Mishnah of 5 lines and a Talmud of 400 lines. And that's how it works. And throughout the Talmud, we analyze the Mishnah, which is dense. Yeah.
I have a question. When you use the term nuclear, I think of like exploding things. So I mean, I'm obviously seeing it in a different.
Yeah, nuclear means with the way I use it is densely packed, where one atom can have a far disproportionate impact, right? So it's so powerful. The energy in the nuclear reaction is so intense that a small tiny space of a tiny atom can change an entire country, a whole Nagasaki. Right?
I'm thinking like, you
so where the explosion is far greater than the size of the original mass. That's what I'm saying, right? So there's much more implication. Like one word or 5 words are so densely packed with wisdom, with energy, that they can change our whole life, right? Good. So now here it is. Now let me explain to you the way it works in the Mishnah. This metaphor, I'm just going to explain to you in my own words. Though delivered to Moses on Mount Sinai orally, the oral Torah was written down by Rabbi Yehuda the Prince in the days of the Romans. Why did he do that? Because he knew that the Jewish people were being persecuted and dispersed throughout the lands, and they were probably going to forget the Torah. They were going to forget the oral Torah. So he decided to write it down. It was about 1,000 years after Moses. But he wrote it in an extremely concise language. The Mishnah contains within it the entire gamut of Jewish law in a concise, dense language. Don't be fooled by the brevity of this magnificent work. It might hide the wisdom, but it has not disappeared. Yeah, but the Talmud is the expansion of that. So don't be fooled by its brevity. The Gemara is the Talmud, is the expansion of the Mishnah. Mishnah and Gemara. There's the Mishnah and the Gemara together, or they make up the oral Torah, the expansion of the oral Torah. So the proof is that. How do you know that the entire wisdom, the entire wisdom of Torah is not disappeared from the Mishnah? It's only hidden in the Mishnah. And the proof is that the subsequent sages of the Gemara were able to extract all the details of Jewish law through analyzing the Mishnah. And that's what they do in the Talmud. They analyze, well, this word and that letter and this sequence and this adjacency shows us these laws. And what they do is, what they're actually doing is that they're decoding or deconstructing the Mishnah to be able to extract the entire gamut of Jewish law. Now, yeah, they argue about it. And it's fine. And that's fine. And they're both right. So let's do this next analogy here. So I explained it to you, the concept. Let's do it inside the text. Okay, an example of this process is the Mishnah, composed by Rabbi Veyodayta the Prince, our early teacher. This is a concise form of the extensive didactic reasoning of the sages of that era. Rabbi Yehuda the Prince capsulized in the full length and breadth of their perception of the subject of Torah in an extremely concise but yet precise form in the Mishnah, so that it would be on a level which an ordinary person can comprehend. The Mishnah is very simple, easy read. Nevertheless, within the Mishnah is contained all the depth, length, and breadth of their inner essential wisdom, as reflected in the Gemara's exposition in depth, length, and breadth of the implications of the particular wording used by the Mishnah. This is all contained in the Mishnah, but in a hidden manner. So what that means is that the Mishnah is extremely concise, but it was like designed for us to be able to memorize. But if you memorize it, you have all the codes. It's like a mnemonic almost. You know what a mnemonic is? Mnemonic. I say mnemonic because I want to remember the M. A mnemonic, right? So a mnemonic is a way where you have a word like apple juice, but the word represents
like Sokotoa.
What does that mean? Sokotoa. What does that mean? Tell me. Sine. Oh, Sokotoa, that was from trigonometry, right? Very nice. So you have the wisdom of trigonometry contained in one phrase, one gibberish phrase. But that's interesting, right? So what you've done is that you've contained a greater wisdom in a densely packed bite-sized packaging, right? So once again, would you say that the mnemonic is removing the wisdom, or is it just hiding it? In fact, it's making it palatable. It's allowing the 8th graders or 10th graders to be able to say, you know what, I can do this. It's helping them to know I can do this, right? Otherwise, you tell them sine cos tan and Pythagoras. You might even remember it when you're 10 years later, right? Exactly.
10 years later.
Yeah.
How about 65 years?
Right. So this, friends, is our second metaphor, and I'm going to do one more metaphor right now. Okay, just one more metaphor. This is the third metaphor, where, well, no, it's actually not. It's not the third metaphor. Just an expansion of the same idea. Right now, this is an important point over here. Let me ask this question. In the mnemonic, right? What does the student see? Gibberish. What did you say? What's the mnemonic? Sokotoa. To somebody who doesn't understand trigonometry, it means nothing. But to the mathematician, to the math teacher, it's clear as day. It's clear as day. When I give a sermon, I don't use notes. I use mnemonics in my head. So in my head, I have this little phrase, and I know exactly where I'm going. Thank God, I'm able to keep it up, right?
So I have a question.
But hang on, let me finish my thing over here. No, but the point is that when I'm talking, to me, the mnemonic is nothing. I see right through it. I see the whole light through it. But if I was to say the mnemonic, you want to hear the sermon? Here, Joe Schmo. That's a sermon. It means nothing to you. It means nothing. But to me, it means everything. So in other words, what we're about to explain is that the fact that the teacher can see through the metaphor, through the hiddenness, through the mnemonic to see the entirety of the light is proof that the analogy or the mnemonic never hid anything at all. It's only like what do you call it? Like a bottleneck to be able to get the light through to get the light through. So in other words, the fact that it's not hidden in the eyes of the speaker, of the teacher, is proof that even in the eyes of the student, it's not hidden. It's not gone. The fact that it's not disappeared, it's only hidden, is proof that it's there. You just got to dig deep to find it. That's where we're going. Yeah.
I was confused because your sermon you read, you have it memorized. You don't even need notes.
I don't memorize it.
Okay, well, you have it. You have it
Has
done.
concepts.
But when you did the Hanukkah thing, you had notes. So I was a little.
Which Hanukkah thing?
Monday night, when we did the candle lighting for the second night. So
I have different ways. I have different ways of speaking. I'm talking about a Shabbos sermon. I have different kinds of speaking that I do. Different styles of speaking that I do. I wasn't talking about every single time that I talk. Yes, on Monday night I had certain notes because there was a certain thing I was dealing with. But it doesn't mean that every single time I speak is without notes. For example, now I'm using notes.
Okay.
See? So it depends. There's different kinds of speeches that I give, different kinds of classes and tea. Yeah, right. You got it. Now, so let's expand this particular concept in the text. All right. A similar process is reflected in the teacher's communication of concepts to the student, like in the Mishnah. He conceals the entire depth of wisdom within the concept that he transmits. Nevertheless, at the outset, it is hidden from the student. And it's only the external dimensions of the concept that are on the student's level of conception that are openly revealed. So the student only hears the mnemonic and he's like, Sokotoa. What does Sokotoa mean? It means like a toe that's soaked in something, right? So the student doesn't have a clue what's going on, right? All that he knows is that what it sounds like is like Sokotoa. I don't know what that is, right? Or you'll tell him an analogy of a banana and a Mickey Mouse. He'll be thinking about banana and Mickey Mouse, right? So when you use, what the student hears or sees is only the superficial component, but he's got to dig, right? As explained above, the potential for this teacher to contract and conceal his essential conception of the matter comes from the power of limitation that exists within his own power of intellect. And this leads to a further concept, that the limitation is what I just said. The limitation is perceived and concealment is perceived only by the student. But there's no limitation and concealment for the teacher, for the speaker. For the speaker, the entire depth of wisdom and comprehension shines openly within the concept as it exists in its concise form as it did before the process of concentration. So for the teacher, before the metaphor, after the metaphor makes a difference. I see the light straight through, right? When I give a sermon with a mnemonic, to me, it doesn't make a difference. Mnemonic, no mnemonic. I see the light. The question is, will the student receive the light as well? Depending on how good a speaker I am, right?
So the written Torah,
Why?
it's written, but you can't understand what's intended without the oral.
Right.
So
It's now, who's the teacher of the written Torah?
God.
God. So God contained himself into today's Tanya. If you learn Tanya, he compacted his own wisdom into the letters of the Torah so that we would be able to have something. So what do we get? We get a story of Joseph being sold as a slave to his brothers. We get a story of an Egyptian monarch, right? Really, it represents far deeper truths. But what we get is a story. At least we can take away a story. It's better than nothing. We take away a story. If you get a good rabbi, you can explain to you the meaning behind the story. That's fantastic. If it becomes relevant and inspirational, it's amazing, right? But no rabbi in the world will tell you that he's ever taught you the entire depth of what lies behind those words of Torah, because it's godly wisdom.
But if he didn't have the oral as well, and then
Yeah. So what lies behind that? So this is exactly the point. Just like the Mishnah is the oral law's density or concentration, so to the written Torah is itself a concentrated, bite-sized package, and you have to recognize. So Bible critics, here's what they do. Bible critics, they say, this doesn't make sense. God is stupid. Right? That's what they'll say. Right? It's kind of like saying, yeah, because for them, the entirety of God's wisdom is the story of the Torah. Why would God want the spoon to be milchik or fleshik? Who cares? If God is so anal, then I'm not interested in dealing with him.
not to boil.
Exactly. What is the no? And they say it sounds ridiculous. I'm not dealing with it, and I'm getting rid of God. Right? That's what they say. That's what they'll say. Right?
It's not like in Passover where the wicked
Yes.
child,
The wicked child is like he just looks at the superficiality of it, but a wise person, a conscious person, is able to look deeper with what lies beneath the surface. Right? And he understands that just like Mark, if you came to me and you gave me a metaphor, I wouldn't say you're an idiot. Goodbye. Right? I'd say there's something you're trying to tell me here. Right? There's something you're trying to. There's a code. Right? There's a code you're trying to tell me because I know you're a smart person. So too, when you study the Torah, if you're not a superficial, one-dimensional, shallow human being, but you're conscious, alert, and awake and alive, and you know that God Almighty is sending you a message, right? He's hiding the light for you, then you take the effort to roll up your sleeves and to do the sweat equity in order to be able to discover the light that lies within, right? So similarly, within all the analogies that he gives, the teacher, he appreciates all the depth contained within the concept, i.e. within the analogies. He sees all the particulars as they exist within his abstract conception of the analog, as it is above being enclosed, limited, and concealed to the analogy. So the fact that for the teacher it's clear as day is proof that the light has never been removed. It's only been hidden. And that's where we're going to wrap it up today because it's all there. Exactly, it's all there. Now, I just want to tell you what's coming up. In the third metaphor, I'm not going to read this one inside because this one is much more technical to read inside. This one gets a little Kabbalistic. I'm just going to explain it to you. Okay? I'm just going to explain it to you now. And with this, I hope to finish this step number 5, what I'm calling step number 5. Okay? So here's what the Rebbe says in the third metaphor. An example is brought from the earth, serving as a metaphor for the Kabbalistic attribute of Malchus. You know, we have 10 soul powers. We're creating the image of God because God chose to express himself through 10 windows of expression. The 10th one is called Malchus, right? Now, what does Malchus mean? I mean, it's an anthropomorphic divine attribute. It's kind of difficult to describe such an abstract concept, right? But the earth is a metaphor to that. Now, don't ask me how, okay? Most people have a very hard time understanding how the former describes the latter, how the earth describes the divine attribute of Malchus. Primarily because we don't even begin to understand anything about the latter, about Malchus. For us, the earth is something that we can understand, and its properties are very familiar to us. But Malchus is not anything we can even wrap our fingers around. We don't even know what it looks like. If it slapped us in the face, we wouldn't even know what it was. But when the Rebbe Rashab talks about this, when he talks about the fact that the earth is a metaphor for the attribute of Malchus, he knows what he's talking about. He's a godly saint, right? When the Rebbe Rashab talks about it, he's completely comfortable talking about the earth and envisioning the sphere of Malchus being completely at ease with the latter as we are with the former. If the sage is able to see the light within the metaphor, then this is solid proof that the light is clearly hidden, not entirely removed. So when God makes them
not entirely revealed.
not removed, it's only hidden, it's not removed, right? So in other words, if like let's say God is giving us a metaphor of the attribute of Malchus, right? So now there's you and me and the Rebbe. Right now, the Rebbe completely understands how the metaphor is a perfect example or expression of the attribute of Malchus. You and I, we look at it like don't know what's flying, right? So the fact that we don't know what's flying, does that mean that the metaphor has hidden the light, has removed the light, or does the fact that the Rebbe sitting next to us understands it tell us it's there? You just can't see it. You and I are just blind. We just need sunglasses. Exactly. That's a sunglass meditation. We just need sunglasses. And now there's one final point where the Rebbe Rashab finishes this section off like this. He says that concealing actually makes for a better revelation. The concealment makes for a better revelation. Why? In the final point, the Rebbe Rashab alerts us to the fact that the concealment of the light isn't merely about revealing the light slowly. It's actually beneficial to the quality of the revelation itself. You see, when a metaphor is employed, as in the case of the earth describing the attribute of Malchus, they both describe the same truth, with the metaphor being a much more tangible representation of the abstract analog. So by using a metaphor, you're actually going to come to a much clearer understanding of the analog of Malchus than if you went straight to the analog, right? Concealing the light through employing the metaphor actually assists even the teacher in perceiving a more tangible understanding of the abstract idea. And this is where we conclude today by saying this, that not only is the root of the darkness the same as light, not only is the purpose of the darkness the same as light, concealment, but even the process of concealment also is designed in order to reveal a better light. Just like the sunglasses is not there to hide the light so that later on your eyes will work better. No, so right now my eyes will be able to enjoy the golf game out in the bright sunlight. That's why I have sunglasses. So the hiding itself is a form of revelation, of a greater revelation. Now, when we are going to make the jump, and eventually we're going to replace the word darkness or concealment with evil, that's when the spaghetti is going to hit the fan, right? We're going to see how we take that. But in this next section, just to give you a quick little teaser preview, we're going to ask the next question. Fine. So we said, okay, so we've learned so far that Havaya and Elohim is all one and the same. So we've learned that revelation and concealment is exactly the same thing. When God reveals the light to us, it's good. It's good. It's revealed good. When God hides the light from us, it's greater good. Right? There's no such thing as evil. There's only revealed good and there's hidden good. So when God reveals the light, it's good. When God hides the light, it's even better good. Right? That's what we learned so far. The question is why? Now that we've reached a rich understanding of the name of Elohim, of the energy of concealment, we have to ask ourselves, why does he do this? What's the purpose of hiding the light in the first place? And when we go through that, we're going to basically start wrapping up everything that we've learned so far. And then we're going to jump over into the practical section of the discourse. I mean, we really turned the corner already now. We, let me tell you, it took some guts to teach this discourse. I am grateful to you all, online and live, for having the courage to bear with me through this process. But I want to tell you, this is not easy stuff to understand. It's not easy stuff to teach, and it's not easy stuff to learn. And the fact that you keep on coming back is a great, very much appreciated. Okay, my goal is not to dumb it down. My goal is not to dumb it down. As a Chabad rabbi, my mission is to bring you the teachings of Chabad. I don't want to just bring you marshmallows and nice social parties at the Chabad, making Chabad a social center. It's about a spiritual center. It's a place where you can reinvent your spirituality, where you can completely and truly reinvent your relationship with God Almighty, reinvent your relationship with yourself, with your wife, with your husband, with your children, with all of the universe around you. By learning about this concept, friends, you're literally becoming a new person. You're literally reinventing your humanity, and we're covering a lot of ground. We've done this in 18 sessions. I think today was lesson 18. And I want to encourage you to review these classes because they're very, very, very powerful. If you can't buy the book, here it is, To Know God. You still have a copy of it? To Know God, this is the book.
Rabbi, when you said the Holocaust, is seen in a good light, honestly, I could picture myself putting my hands around your neck. I mean,
Very
no
nice.
pun intended, but I mean, when you say that, I really,
Bear in mind, Mark, I'm not God's defense attorney. Okay? I'm not here to protect him. I am just as livid as you are. However, I'm the pilot of this airplane. So don't shoot the messenger. Okay? I'm driving the airplane. You strangle the pilot, you're going to crash. Okay? So it's not going to help you strangle the pilot.
my grandfather didn't leave Eastern Europe when he was a teenager. I wouldn't be here.
Right. Anyways, folks, I'm going to wrap it up over here. Thank you for sharing that. We're leaving on a very big question mark, a big cliffhanger here. A big cliffhanger as we dare to replace the word concealment and darkness with evil and suffering. Human suffering. To say that evil is a greater good. OMG. What are you talking about? Corey, thank you so much for opening our eyes to concepts so powerful. Thank you, Corey. I appreciate your sharing with me what's on your minds. Anyways, all right, guys. Toda rabah, shalom. Have a wonderful day. And tomorrow is